On September 5, 2004, a single, unmarked envelope slipped through the mail slot of a Wichita newspaper office and reignited a nightmare that had lain dormant for more than 27 years. Inside, a chilling note signed BTK, an acronym for Bind, Torture, Kill, declared that the infamous killer who had haunted Kansas for 3 decades was ready to speak again, and that the police's silence had finally been broken. Dennis Rader, a seemingly ordinary man with a white-collar job as a compliance officer for a local printing company, had lived a double life that would shock a nation. By day he attended church services, coached Little League baseball, and even served as a Sunday school teacher at the Grace Baptist Church in Park City, Kansas. By night, behind the veneer of domestic normalcy, he stalked, bound, and brutally murdered at least 10 victims, leaving behind meticulously planned crime scenes that baffled investigators and terrified communities across the Midwest. The BTK murders began in 1974, when 22-year-old Rader strangled 4 members of the Otero family in their Wichita home, a crime that went unsolved for nearly a decade. Over the next 10 years, he claimed 7 more victims, each chosen with a disturbing blend of randomness and personal connection. He would leave a single red-inked signature at each scene, a black letter, BTK, painted on walls, furniture, or even a victim's chest. The moniker was not a police invention. It was a self-assigned trademark that Rader sent to the media, relishing the power of his notoriety while he remained invisible. For years, law enforcement chased phantom leads, interviewing thousands, but the killer's meticulous planning and his ability to blend into everyday life kept him out of reach. The case went cold in the early 1990s, and the public's fear gradually faded into a grim folklore of unsolved horror. That all changed when Rader, emboldened by the rise of the internet and a perverse desire for control, began sending taunting letters to local media outlets in 2004, demanding that the police stop ignoring him and threatening to resume his killing spree unless his correspondence was taken seriously. The turning point came when Rader mailed a floppy disk to the police, a relic of his own era, containing metadata that would prove his undoing. Forensic analysts at the Wichita Police Department examined the disk and discovered a file named My Heart. WAV, that, when opened, played a short audio clip of a church hymn. Embedded within the file's properties was the name Dennis, a reference to a former employer, and a timestamp that matched a date when Rader had been on duty at his workplace. Further scrutiny revealed that the document's author was a user named Dennis, and the disk's operating system logs traced back to a computer at the Christ Lutheran Church, where Rader volunteered as a deacon. Armed with this digital breadcrumb, investigators secured a search warrant for Rader's home on February 25, 2005. The raid uncovered a macabre shrine, a binder containing newspaper clippings of his own crimes, a hand-drawn map of Wichita with the locations of his victims circled, and a chillingly detailed list of his future plans. Hidden under a floorboard, they found a leather-bound diary in which Rader chronicled his murders with the detached precision of a bureaucrat. The evidence was overwhelming, but it was the forensic link to the floppy disk that gave prosecutors the solid, admissible proof needed to bring a case to trial. The trial began on June 20, 2005, in the Wichita County Courthouse, drawing a crowd of reporters, true crime enthusiasts, and the families of the victims who had waited decades for justice. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence: DNA from a hair found on a victim's clothing that matched Rader's, the digital forensics tying him to the floppy disk, and the incriminating personal items seized from his home. Witnesses described the eerie calm with which Rader, the church deacon, greeted them, unaware that they were sitting across from a confessed monster. Rader chose not to testify, but his silence spoke louder than any defense. The courtroom atmosphere was electric as the jury deliberated for just 3 hours before returning a verdict of guilty on all 10 counts of first-degree murder, as well as additional counts of aggravated assault and burglary. On August 5, 2005, the judge sentenced Dennis Rader to 10 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole, effectively ensuring he would die behind bars. The aftermath of the trial rippled through both the legal system and the community that had once trusted Rader. In Wichita, churches revisited their security protocols, and a wave of counseling services emerged to help families cope with the lingering trauma. The case sparked a national conversation about the warning signs of psychopathic behavior hidden beneath the facade of civic involvement, prompting law enforcement agencies to develop more sophisticated behavioral profiling techniques and digital forensic capabilities. For Rader, imprisonment did not quiet the darkness within. In a 2006 interview from his cell, he admitted that his killings were a need for control, and that the thrill of outwitting the police had become an addiction. He continued to correspond with journalists, sending cryptic letters that were filtered through the prison's strict monitoring system, reminding the world that even in confinement, his voice could still echo through the headlines. Subscribe to The Verdict for more stories like this.